Is there a Sunday school class? May I put you on the spot? Is there a Sunday school class that would like to do this for the month of February? You even choose the date. You choose the date, you choose the menu, you choose everything. We don't necessarily, we might have learned, but I thought maybe the best thing to do, rather than jump in the letter and stop after every other verse and go, okay, now let's talk about this, and spend a session or two trying to unpack what Paul's saying. In other words, the things that are assumed that we would know in the first century world. I thought, why don't we turn it upside down? What if I give a general picture of slavery in the Greco-Roman world in Paul's day? And then I want to move through briefly, not extensively, but slavery image in the Gospels, as well as other parts of Paul's canon, the letters of Paul, and even the rest of the New Testament. And here's what will happen to us by the time we come to Philemon. Two things. One, our eyes will be opened to how ubiquitous slavery really is. Not only in that world, but in the New Testament. We kind of just fly by this. And I'm telling you, once you understand slavery as an important and dominant part of the Greco-Roman world, the Jewish world as well, you're going to be surprised how we just kind of fly by the word slave and slavery. And you can't help but ask, well, what does that mean? Something simple. So I'm going to start tonight just by reading from Paul. He says, talks about the body as the temple, and then he moves from the metaphor of the body as the temple of the Holy Spirit to this. Do you not know that you are not your own? Your body is not your own. You have been bought with a price. Therefore, glorify God in the body, in your body. Once we work through a description of slavery in the New Testament, you realize how much slave talk Paul's relying upon, even referring to slaves as bodies. All right. So tonight I want to start with just a general description of slavery in the Greco-Roman world. First of all, slave was a legal status. It was not an occupation. And in Roman law, there were legal status was one of three. Either you were freeborn, you were a freedman, was the word that was used. Who's a freedman? A freedman who was once a slave, but has bought their freedom. Freeborn, freedman, or slave. Those were three categories of legal status in the Roman Empire. Slaves had no legal standing at all. They were considered property of their owner, like tools. And of course, Rome had laws that governed property. They had laws that governed the sale of property, the purchase of property, even the house property is to be treated. For example, when a slave was on the auction block to be purchased, it was considered an important part of disclosure to reveal whether or not the slave had ever run away, to reveal its ethnicity, because their ethnicity had a huge impact on the value of the slave. Now, let me just say as a caveat when I get started, right? I'm going to be describing things in first century terms, and it's going to offend our sensibilities. And especially going to be hard. Not only will it offend our sensibilities, but because of the blight of American history and the racial problems that we have even to this day, it's going to be hard for us to kind of try to put that to the side. I'm not saying we're going to dismiss it later. We'll talk about the implications for today. But try to put that aside and just try to understand slavery on first century Greco-Roman terms. Okay? So and the way they view the world. The reason ethnicity was so important is the Greeks believed, and the Romans as well, that ethnicity revealed inclinations, proclivities. We would call them gifts or even their constitution. The Greeks, for example, said small-headed people with small fingers were meant to rule the world. Convenience, because that's describing the Greek. And if a Greek man had long hair, it was a sign that he was a person of high status, because manual labor was looked down upon. And if you were a manual laborer, the one thing you wouldn't want was long hair, because it would get in the way. So a man having long hair in the Greco-Roman world meant he was probably of high status. If he was a Greek, he was the highest station. The Romans were known for the most part as brutes. But not as bad as the Germanic people. Well, the Romans were known for engineering. Romans loved providing water. They thought one of the ways you can keep a conquered people under your thumb is to make sure they have two things: water and bread. So Rome built aqueducts all over the world to bring fresh water into a town, which was like unheard of. As a matter of fact, even to this day, how many of you have ever been to Rome? Have you visited the city? They still have those fountains. You walk around Rome, and fountains are constant, right? And those are locations of ancient fountains. And it was considered an amazing thing for people to visit Rome in the first century. And all this water was just there for free. And they basically trucked it in, right, through these aqueducts. So the Romans were viewed as engineers and brute strength that shows itself, and of course, in their love of the gladiator games. The Germanic peoples were considered dim-witted, stupid people. That you have to enslave those kind of people to keep them under wraps, keep them in chains. Dark-skinned people were considered with curly hair, oversexed, and lazy. As the way the Greeks saw the world, and the Romans bought into it as well. So, if you have a slave that's and you find out Germanic, that means he's got brute strength. You want to know that because they're also known to be good workers. They would work hard. If you found out that someone was of Northern Africa and the color of skin didn't give away, there were other evidences. Then especially if it's mixed race, those kind of slaves would have a certain purpose, you might say, or to be avoided. According to Roman law, it was required. Get this. Of slaves to be beaten before they get testimony in court. That was required. As a matter of fact, a slave's testimony would not be admissible until after they were beaten. There were laws governing how to deal with runaway slaves. We'll talk about that much later. And also laws regarding manumission. How a slave could try to actually one day purchase their freedom. Any questions about that before I move on? I'm going to stop after each of the major points of slavery. They believed that that's a good question, Stephanie. They believed that slaves were subhuman. So they were reasonable people. And since they're not reasonable, you can't rely upon their word. So the only way you can get the truth out of them is to beat them to a point where they're willing to tell the truth. So the presumption is these people are not reasonable, they're subhuman, and you're not going to get a testimony that's admissible until you beat them. Wait a minute. So this is your last term, right, Richard? just give you a little warning. This will be your last term. You talk about retirement. Maybe this is the way you ensure your retirement. Of course, it depends. Some people that might appreciate that you beat the plaintiff rather than have them beaten. We're going to talk about that. Yeah. Second major point. I have five major points. Some of them are really detailed. Second. It is estimated in the Greco-Roman world that 30 to 40% of the population were enslaved people. Large number, right? I mean, it's hard to imagine. That's just 40%. Just for fun, you want to do this real quick? Let's go around the room and number off. I want you to see it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pete. Here. I need a 1, 2. Or let's 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. Way in the back. 3, 4, 5. Mary Jo. Bob. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Danny. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll come over here to Mark. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, Janice. 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. Ready? Even. Stand up. Even numbers. Even numbers. There's got to be some of the back. Come on, y'all. If you lived in a Greco-Roman world, this is the look at this. This is how many people there would be slaves. They were everywhere. All right, be seated. I'll get to that. It's estimated that the old Rome, in the city of Rome, within the main city, 80% of the population inside the city were slaves. 80%. Now, the wealthy people lived outside the city. They lived in villas. Most within the city, there were apartments, tenement housing. And there were huge ghettos. There was a huge slave ghetto in Rome. There was a huge Jewish ghetto as well. But the wealthy, powerful citizens lived outside the city. So when you go into the Roman city, 8 out of every 10 people you meet will be a slave. Slavery was vital to the economic welfare, prosperity of the Roman Empire. Vital. It's pretty much determined in economic terms that if there wasn't slavery in the first century world, there would have been huge economic turmoil and problems. I've shared sometime before. Maybe I need to bring it again next time. The poverty scale or the economy scale of this world. 50% of the population live at or below the poverty level. 50%. Then the next 30% live slightly above the poverty level. Which a poverty level is you have 2 days of food. So like 30 to 40% lived slightly above. There was no middle class. So you might have a week's worth of food. And the upper 1% were the ones that owned the land. They were the retainer class. They were the powerful, wealthy people. And so they were the ones that ruled as well as held great interest in the political powers and the important lands, the retainer class. Third major point about slavery is the source. Where did slaves come from the Greco-Roman world? First, war. when Rome conquered, when it expanded its empire, you remember it was a republic for the longest time. And the republic, before Julius Caesar, you had senators who were of the highest rank. They were aristocrats. Who basically governed the Roman Republic. When the Republic began to suffer threats of invasion from the Gauls to the north, and there was always the threat of the Persians to the east. The Senate saw Italy shrinking, and so they said, you know what, we need to hire a man who can protect the Republic. So they hired a successful general, Julius Caesar. And he not only defeated the Gauls and pushed them back and placed a good number of them and put them in Asia Minor like they made. This is what foreign countries, I mean, powers did when they defeated a country. They would always take the upper crust, the 1% we just talked about, and they would displace them. They would put them exiled somewhere else. And actually, when Julius Caesar defeated the Gauls, we're talking now the French. Today. He displaced the upper crust and the power from there, and he put them in Asia Minor, and that province came to be known Galatia. Galatia was named after them. So when Paul writes to the Galatians, he's writing to a good number of displaced Gauls. So you know the story about Julius Caesar, right? I mean, the Senate thought, we've lost power because he starts making decisions about domestic policy, about not consulting the Senate for a variety of reasons. So he was assassinated. And then they decided that Civil War broke out between two generals, Octavian and Mark Antony. And then a third Senator Cassius tried to lead a part to try to wrest control, to restore the Republic. And you know Cassius lost. Mark Antony and Octavian go to battle. Mark Antony loses, and Octavian becomes the Caesar, and he takes the title Caesar Augustus. He's the August one. And it's under Caesar Augustus when Roman law, Augustan law, becomes really more than a how shall I put it? It becomes the dominant cultural frame that Augustus sees Roman rule as a benefit to the world. And so what he promises is he's going to establish Roman law, justice for all. He's going to build Roman roads to connect the major cities to stimulate trade. And therefore, by sending soldiers all over the empire, he will establish Roman peace. That is Lex Romana, Via Romana, Pax Romana. And Augustus is really, you might say, he is the founder of the Roman Empire. And by then the Senate has lost all control. Now, the reason I emphasize that is because whenever these Caesars would, they came from the battlefield, and they would win these major wars, when they conquered these peoples, they would often displace the upper crust or bring them back to Rome. And many of them, like their powerful soldiers, attractive women, children, would be enslaved. Second source, kidnapping. Kidnapping was a major source of slaves for slave traders. Have you guys seen the movie Gladiator either 1 or 2? Anybody seen those movies? Yeah. All right. So there's slave traders and the capturing, the kidnapping, and how they come into the power of a slave trader. So there's a reference to slave traders in the New Testament. In 1 Timothy chapter 1, because these guys were notorious. They would often show up after Rome had conquered a people, and they would show up, and sometimes they would be children left. Vulnerable because their parents were killed, and the slave traders would move in and kidnap children and adults and bring them and of course sell them as slaves. In 1 Timothy 1 verse 10, let's back up 9, read its context. Realizing the fact laws not made for a righteous man, but for those who are lawless and rebellious, for the ungodly and sinners. This is common in Paul. He has vice lists constantly in his letters. For the unholy and the profane. And now he's going to get specific. Who are these people? They killed their fathers and their mothers. They're murderers. Verse 10, they are immoral people. And that word is sexual immorality. Homosexuals, kidnappers, there it is, liars, perjurers, whatever else is contrary to sound teaching. So Paul lumps in this vice list of these are the well-known notorious sinners of the world. He refers to these kidnappers. Third source for slaves. Not only war, kidnapped by slave traders. Third, exposed infants. And what do I mean by that? Infanticide was a major problem in the Greco-Roman world because it was considered completely acceptable. What's happening here? I don't want to go into too much detail, but the Roman sex ethic. We've talked about this before. A Roman man was considered honorable if he did not spend his sexual desire on his wife. She was not to be a vessel for his lust. She was instead he preserved his honor by only having a wife to procure children. Right. So it was pretty much understood that men had sexual appetites beyond that. And so it was customary, even considered honorable, therefore, for a Roman man to have all kinds of sexual experiences. We'll talk more about these brothels, but also even have sex slaves. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But also have paramours, lovers, that male and female, to satisfy satiated sexual appetite. Children that were procured by these paramours were considered shameful. It was unhonorable for a man to bring that child into his home. So it was pretty much expected that if these men had children that was in this way, the children would be it was his decision, not the wife, or not the woman. Woman had no decision in this. He decided to have the infant exposed. And that meant they would typically, in a place like Rome or in major urban centers like in Egypt, they would take the child and leave them at the trash heap. And those babies would be left there, exposed. And slave traders would forage through the dump and find these children. And then of course, raise them to be sold on the auction block. One, two, three. Fourth source of slaves in the first century world were children that were born to female slaves. So, if say you've got a household slave and she has sexual relations with a male slave, that child would be the property of the owner. And therefore that any child born to a female slave was a slave. And finally, freedmen would sell themselves back into slavery. Now we'll talk more about manumission and how they bought their freedom and how it was offered to them. But the fact that there's three legal status legal status of freeborn and free man. And in the literature, there's quite a few references to the freedmen. You see it in the Gospels, you see it in Acts. And even Paul talks about it, freedmen. It was sometimes more difficult for a slave who purchased the freedom to live as a freedman, to live free. They had a hard time getting a job. They had a hard time not only earning a living, but having a place to live. And if they tried to make it and they couldn't make it, there's some, we don't know how often this happened, but freedmen, because there's a Roman law that governs how this happens. But if a freedman decides they can't make it, it's kind of like the story of the prodigal. Remember what he says as he's looking at pig food because he's a slave for a Gentile, and he says, what does he say? Remember? I'd rather be a slave in my father's home than eat this pig. Continue like this. Therefore, there would be freedmen who decided they can't make it on their own, and they would sell themselves back into slavery, especially if they were released by a benevolent master. And they would want to say, you know what, I can't make it. I want to be your slave. And Roman law says if a freedman who's purchased their freedom, wants a slave, either for war, exposure, or whatever, and they bought their freedom, if they decide they want to be sold back into slavery, they could never purchase their freedom. They were a slave forever. So those are the major sources of slavery, of the enslaved in the first century world. Any questions about this? He came to power in. Well, you would ask him. I should know that. The wars were like in the Civil War. I mean, Julius Caesar was killed like in the 30s, right? 44 is. Yeah, Actium is when? 43, 42. Actium is the famous naval battle between Mark Antony and Octavian. And he loses. Mark Antony. And so I guess he comes into power as Caesar late 40 to late 30s. Oh yeah. By the time Jesus was born, 4 BC, right? Caesar Augustus has a firm control over the Roman world. He's been in power for at least 30 to 40 years, maybe 40 years. Yep. That's right. The famous battle of Actium was 43 years. And is it 33? So Julius Caesar was assassinated in the 40s. We need somebody with a phone to confirm all this, but I should know this off my head, but it's been so long. So you got a general idea. Yeah. We'll get to that. That's correct. We'll talk more about that. Women, there was no chance for a woman. Well, I'll come back to that. There's a kind of a scholar's debate about a woman's status if she was freed. Yeah. Octavian was born September 23rd, autumnal equinox. So he was born 63 BC? Yeah. That makes sense. So I think he probably just know. Someone look up when did Octavian when did he become Caesar Augustus installed the Caesar in Rome? What year was that? I should know this. Okay. Anyway, we'll find out eventually. Someone looks that up for the curious. You got a phone, Jim? You look it up. In 44, I'm at 44. The famous naval battle of Actium, which is between Mark Antony. See, Mark Antony had pretty much he came into Ephesus to marshal forces in support of him, and the Ephesians had the big blow-up party for him, and they loved him. He makes his way down through Assyria and Palestine, Israel, and Herod the Great says you're my man, go, we're for you. Goes of course, Cleopatra in Egypt. So he has the east. Octavius basically marshaled forces really that were loyal to Julius Caesar, to the west. So you've got east versus west as they fight at Actium. And if you've watched the movie Cleopatra, you know how that turns out. Yeah. 27 is when he becomes Caesar. Wow. And so the Actium battle was in 33. Wow. So it took them a while. It took about 6 years to get up to Rome and secure power. Yes, Kinney. No. Slaves were not. But the military was composed of mercenary soldiers, Roman soldiers, of course, come from a variety of backgrounds. But the Roman army was a way of advancing your status. Because if you were a subject and you joined the Roman army and they took you, you served, and then upon your completing your service, you were granted citizenship, and with citizenship came the promise of land. So the army was a kind of a way for people to advance their welfare. Other questions? Y'all are asking really good questions. No, only the owners. So if the slaves were property, I'll talk more about this in a minute. If the slaves were property and Rome had laws to protect property, then what they're doing is not protecting the slave, they're protecting the property of the owner. They were often looked upon like as if they were tools. Fourth, occupation. So there were two kinds of slaves. You might say it has to do with where they worked. There were household slaves, and then there were, for lack of a better word, the word was rustic, but the field slaves. So you might say urban slaves or slaves that worked in the household, and slaves that worked for business owners. That's two ways of looking at it. Household slaves and slaves of business owners. And it was far more desirable to be a household slave than a slave of a business. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So first, what were the occupations, what were the jobs of household slaves? We're talking about now slaves owned by paterfamilias. The paterfamilias is Latin for family father. And in Roman law, the family father held the legal interest in his household. All the household. Sons. Daughters. If they got married, he held the interest of those families. And not just within his household, not just home, but he would hold legal interest and therefore the owner of the property of the sons. And if they married his slaves, of course, and his clients. That is, people he would hire to do his work, to do a variety of deeds. So slaves were one of the cheapest ways for a family father to conduct his business. They performed a variety of domestic duties, from low-skilled jobs like cleaning, cooking, baking, weaving, any kind of textile, pottery, sex, and other kind of low-skilled jobs. And also you had household slaves that were high-skilled. For example, and now we're talking these are the wealthier, more powerful families. Scribe, household managers, and what we mean by that, they're responsible for running the household with regards to expenses and trading for things that they would need. Managing slaves as well. Teachers, you had to hire a teacher to teach your child. There were no public schools. So often the high-skilled teachers were high-skilled slaves because they were literate. And physicians were commonly slaves in the first century world. That's interesting to me because we often talk about Luke's physician, making it sound like he's sort of high-status person, but he wasn't necessarily high-status, but he was high-skilled. And there's a chance that Luke would have been a former slave. So where did they live? They lived in the owner's house, which would be probably a back room. And if the owner had like, say a dozen slaves, then they would share a small room together, and often have to lie on the floor at night. They also had these villas had detached shelters where they sheltered animals, where they stored grain and other things. And so those detached shelters would function as slave quarters. So the slaves would be treated like animals. But also there were some slaves were allowed to live in tenement housing again in that slave quarter, which was the very poor part of Rome. So those are the household slaves. The field slaves. These are slaves that are owned by business owners and landowners. They worked or they would be leased out to the clients of these business owners. They worked on farms to cultivate, plant, weed, reap, store the produce. They worked in quarries where stone would be quarried, precious metals, mines, jewels, salt mines. Most of them were slaves. And they also worked in taverns as distillers. The beer makers, the potters, the bakers. There's even stories of a owner of a slave who has a baker that evidently makes the best bread of all. It's desirable bread. And he hired out his slave to certain homes, especially for special occasions. And he'd get a lot of money because his baker was known for making fantastic bread. They also worked in brothels, which were also inns. In the first century world, inns were basically brothels where people would. You should have an honor to get a place to stay traveling. But if you're a low-status person, then you would stay at most public houses were brothels. Also bath houses. Slaves worked there. And so they often cleaned quarters, they washed the linens, they emptied the chamber pots. They clean the urinals, they bathe the guests, and they make themselves available for sex, depending on the desire of the person in the bathhouse. Also, slaves function as entertainment. In their world, almost all artists and actors were slaves. I find that really funny. An example of those who performed entertainment on a grander scale are the gladiators. Many poets were slaves. And so poets brought out, say a man's having a dinner, and always expected there to be entertainment. So he would bring a slave who's a poet to recite either original or well-known poetry. They typically lived in the business or in the field. In the field they lived in huts. If they were living in the business like a brothel, they would be like in a back room. Often they would be chained, fettered, so they could never leave. They lived in cells that would look like prisons. That was the life of a slave. Any questions about that? Yes. So I'll talk more about that. That slaves did have they could not be legally married. I'll talk about that. But they were but male slaves and female slaves would have children and almost function like a family unit within a household. One of the signs of your status and importance as a man and your wealth and power was how many slaves you had. And not only how many slaves you had, but you had like a huge number of slaves, even slaves were assigned menial tasks. It's like the more slaves you had, the menial tasks, the more important and significant you were. I'm going to read a passage from the Satyricon, which is by Petronius. And he talks about the frivolous slave task that was evidence of the owner's wealth. Here it is. Quote. If the ball hit the ground, Trimalchio, it was the son of this wealthy owner, didn't chase it, but he had a slave with a bag full of balls that would give players a new one. We noticed other novelties. There were two eunuchs stationed at different points in a circle playing some sort of ball game. One was holding a silver chamber pot, the other was counting the balls. While we wondered at the extravagance of this, Menelaus ran up and said, "This is the guy who's throwing the party. What you see is only the prelude to dinner, expecting more kind of frivolous things." As Menelaus spoke, Trimalchio snapped his finger as a signal to the eunuch to hold out the chamber pot for him as he continued to play. And after he relieved himself by emptying his bladder, he called for water for his hands, sprinkled it lightly on his fingers, then wiped them clean on the head of the young slave. Fifth point. And I'll go another few minutes because you look like you've had enough. I thought it would take two times. So. Slaves in society. Slaves were referred to in literature and bills of sale as bodies. Somata is the Greek word. There's called bodies. And there's a reference to that in Revelation. In the Revelation of John, chapter 18. Verse 13. This is the describing vision of the end of Babylon and how all these merchants who made money off of her are grieving her death. I'll just back up and start with verse 9. The kings of the earth committed acts of immorality, lived sensuously with her. And of course, Babylon's a picture of Rome, right? Will weep and lament over her when they see the smoke of her burning, standing at a distance because of the fear of her torment, saying, woe to the great Babylon, the strong city, for in 1 hour your judgment has come. The merchants of the earth weep and mourn over her because no one buys their cargoes anymore. Cargoes of gold. Here's the cargo. Cargoes of gold, silver, precious stones, pearls, fine linen, purple, silk, scarlet, every kind of citron wood, every article of ivory, every article made from very costly wood, bronze, iron, marble, cinnamon, spice, incense, perfume, frankincense, wine, olive oil, fine flour, wheat, cattle, sheep, cargoes of horses, chariots, bodies, human lives. Did you hear the list? And where the slaves rate? There you go. Masters referred to their slaves. They would call them commonly boy, pais, or girl, paidikas, or paidike, boy, girl, come here. Or doulos were common word in Testament for slave, come here. Sometimes Roman owners would give their slaves Greek names. So here are a number of slave names. Onesimus, we've already mentioned him. Philemon. His name means useful. So they would say basically they named their slaves like a pet. Come here, useful. Hypocrite. The Greek word hypocrite means actor. So this is obviously an actor. Come here, hypocrite. And so Eros is a common slave name for sex slaves. Eros, lover. Sometimes they'd be named after the Greek god Hercules. Like if he was a big, brawny guy, they would call it nickname Hercules. You have a number of slave names, and I'm not going to turn there, but in Romans 16, let's summarize. What's interesting about when Paul greets all the different house churches in Rome, in Romans 16, there are five house churches he greets. Here's what's so fascinating about the house list of these five house churches. They are grouped according to different kinds of people. The first list are Jews, all Jewish names. To the household, the house that meets in Priscilla, and they're all Jewish names. Then the last list are all noble names. To the house church of, and he lists a bunch of noble names. In the middle three, a lot of slave names. So here's some slave names in Romans 16. Ampliatus, which means ample, able. Urbanus. That means city boy. Urbanus. Herodian, little Herod. Narcissus. Tryphena, which means dainty. Tryphena. Tryphosa, luscious. Come here, luscious. And Hermas. In 1 Corinthians 16, verse 17, as a well-known slave named Fortunatus, which means lucky. So they named their slaves often as a sign not only of their ownership, but of course the Romans loved because they conquered the Greeks. They loved to give them Greek names as a sign of their Roman superiority. I'll end with this. Slaves were marked often. They were either branded with an hot iron. They were tattooed. Sometimes on the arm, often on the face, on the forehead, or on the cheek. They would sometimes, especially if they were runaway slaves, they would be fitted with a metal collar. And it was inscribed with the initials TMQF, which in Latin is Tenem Quia Fugio, which means hold on to me since I run away. Any questions about what I covered tonight? I'm going to continue to talk about how slaves function in society next time, and probably get in a little bit some of the references to slavery in the New Testament. Kenny, go ahead, Kenny. That's a really good question. And no. It was required of the slave to practice the religion of the owner. Now, could they continue to practice if they wanted to, like their ancestral? They probably could. But in their day, remember, gods were not mutually exclusive. So a slave owner would may not wouldn't necessarily stop someone from trying, but it would be considered maybe dishonorable to slave owner if he saw that slave trying to say burning incense to their ancestral gods. Because again, in their remember your gods, the gods are revealed by the power that be human power. So Rome considered their gods superior, and you were to honor their gods. So owners required their slaves. They had no choice. You honored the gods of your owner. especially household slaves. There's that scene, remember the scene in Gladiator, I can't remember one or two, where he's kept in a little napkin his ancestral gods. You remember? And he would lay them out every once in a while and try to burn some incense like when he was in prison. Maximus did. So no, it's probably too strong a word. They couldn't keep him from it, but it was pretty much expected. The household slaves especially worship the gods of their owner. That's going to come into play when we talk about Acts. When a person comes to Christ and the whole house is baptized, it was pretty much against their will. Yes. That's a good question. And I'm going to actually deal with that next time. It's very thing on my list. But I'll give you a little heads up here. Little sneak preview. Many household slaves, not so much business slaves, but household slaves would be given an allowance called peculium. And it was expected that if they received extra money, they could use it to invest. They could use it to. They could even buy slaves. A slave could buy a slave. But what's interesting is it still come in the power of the owner. But that's how they accumulated money eventually. They could invest it, they could lend it. And there's stories about slaves who especially we'll talk about slaves how powerful people like Caesar's household. They had quite a bit of influence. And they could make quite a bit of money. But those are high-skilled slaves. Yeah, pretty low. The slave traders were considered the scoundrels. And next above them were the bounty hunters. So we'll talk about them, about runaway slaves. But there were bounty hunters. Yeah, but that was pretty low in the pecking order of merchants. But even that, I mean, if you were a person who had to work with your hands, manual labor was considered undignified. For the honorable. That's why Paterfamilias, he wouldn't have a job. He owns land, he owns businesses. He had people do his work for him. And so I mentioned like when we were talking about, I can't remember what we were talking about recently, but when I would teach to my students, and we talked about maybe we use an example in Rediscovering Paul, they function like what we say of Godfather. And so it shouldn't surprise us that model Godfather, the Cilician, right? That's Rome. That's the way they function. So that's why the Godfather of the Paterfamilias, he has control over everything. He decides who marries whom. He decides who does what job. He has complete power. Oh, the good old days. Good night, everyone. See you next time. Hope you'll come. We're not serving food, but hope you'll come.